The financial world is buzzing today, May 29, 2025. A significant court ruling has just been announced. This ruling targets the controversial tariffs from the Trump era. Investors are reacting with strong approval. Stock markets are showing impressive gains. This decision feels like it could mark a pivotal moment for global commerce. Companies that paid these tariffs could be in line for substantial refunds. We are talking about potentially billions of dollars. This money was paid for import duties deemed unlawful. On top of that, there's the possibility of interest payments. Looking ahead, businesses are also anticipating lower operational costs. This could mean a significant boost to their profits, but the implications of this ruling extend far beyond Wall Street's immediate gains. The court's decision has the potential to reshape international trade dynamics. It could help to alleviate some persistent economic pressures. Think about the stubborn inflation we've been battling. Consider the tangled supply chains that have caused so many headaches. Governments and businesses worldwide are paying close attention. Understanding this ruling is key to understanding what comes next for the economy. To understand today's news, we need to go back a few years. The tariffs in question were primarily imposed under Section 301. This part of the Trade Act of 1974 allows the U.S. to act against unfair foreign trade practices. President Trump used this provision starting in 2018. He levied tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods. This was a central part of his America First economic policy. The Trump administration argued these tariffs were necessary. They cited large trade deficits with China. They pointed to what they called non-reciprocal treatment by foreign countries. Intellectual property theft was another major justification. The goal, they said, was to protect American industries. They wanted to bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States. These arguments were met with both support and strong criticism. The impact of these tariffs was immediate and far-reaching. They escalated trade tensions globally, especially between the U.S. and China. This led to a tit-for-tat trade war. Both countries imposed retaliatory tariffs on each other's goods. Global supply chains were severely disrupted. Businesses faced increased costs and tremendous uncertainty. Legal challenges were mounted almost immediately. These legal battles have been winding their way through the courts ever since, leading to today's ruling. The U.S. Court of International Trade delivered the pivotal ruling. It declared that parts of President Trump's Section 301 tariffs were unlawfully imposed. The court found that the administration exceeded its authority. Specifically, it focused on tariffs targeting Chinese goods. These were the tariffs that significantly fueled the U.S. China trade war. The decision directly addresses the legality of how these sweeping import taxes were implemented. The court's legal rationale is crucial here. It determined that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, i.e. EPA, was misused. The IEPA did not grant the president the power for such broad tariffs, the court stated. The ruling emphasized that the president did not possess unilateral authority to impose these duties in this manner. The court essentially said that the administration did not follow the proper procedures. What does this ruling mean for the tariffs themselves? The court has ordered a permanent halt to these specific tariffs. It also barred any future modifications to them. However, it's important to note what is not affected. The ruling does not impact existing tariffs on certain products. So, this decision is targeted but very significant for the affected goods. The reaction in the U.S. financial markets was swift and overwhelmingly positive. As news of the court's decision spread, stock prices began to climb. Dow futures, a key indicator of market sentiment, jumped significantly. Some reports indicated a surge of as much as 500 points. This kind of movement shows strong investor optimism. The U.S. dollar also gained ground against currencies often seen as safe havens. Specific sectors and companies saw notable gains. Stocks tied to imports experienced a particularly strong surge. Think about major retailers who source many goods from overseas. Technology companies, heavily reliant on global supply chains, also benefited. Logistics firms which handle the movement of these goods saw their shares rise. Companies like Apple and Walmart, major importers, were among those watched closely. Their performance reflected the broader market enthusiasm for potentially lower import costs and smoother trade. The positive sentiment wasn't confined to the United States. International markets also reacted favorably. Asian stock indices in particular showed gains. This makes sense as many Asian economies are heavily involved in trade with the U.S. trade partners of the United States, expressed cautious optimism. It offers a glimmer of hope for a reduction in global trade friction, which benefits everyone. The potential long-term economic benefits of this ruling are substantial. One of the most significant could be an easing of global inflation. Tariffs are taxes on imported goods. These costs are often passed down through the supply chain. Ultimately, consumers often pay more. Removing these tariffs could reduce cost pressures. This would be welcome news for central banks and households battling rising prices. Another key area is the revival of strained global supply chains. The tariffs and the ensuing trade disputes created major disruptions. Companies faced delays, higher costs, and uncertainty in sourcing materials and products. A rollback of these tariffs could help to smooth out these issues. It could lead to more efficient and resilient supply chains. This would benefit not just large corporations but also smaller businesses. A more fluid global trade system supports economic growth and innovation. This court decision could also influence international trade relations more broadly. The Trump-era tariffs strained relationships with many key trading partners. This ruling might be seen as an opportunity to reset some of those dynamics. It could foster a more cooperative approach to resolving trade disputes. However, it's not a magic wand. It's crucial to understand that these tariffs will not simply vanish overnight. The court ruling is a significant step, but it's part of an ongoing process. The Biden administration now finds itself in a complex position. It faces a critical decision regarding the tariffs. This decision will have major implications for U.S. economic policy. It will also shape America's trade relationships, particularly with China. The core dilemma for the Biden administration is whether to continue the appeal. The appeal was initiated by the Trump administration. President Biden could choose to drop the appeal and let the court's ruling stand, or his administration could decide to press on with the legal fight. This choice involves balancing several competing priorities. On one hand, the Biden administration has sought to maintain a tough stance on China. They have concerns about China's trade practices, human rights, and industrial policies. Continuing the appeal might be seen as consistent with this approach. On the other hand, there's the economic impact on U.S. businesses and consumers. Removing the tariffs could lower costs and ease inflation. This would be popular with many American companies and households. The legal saga may not end with the current appeal. The ultimate outcome will depend on these legal and political deliberations. So, what does this court ruling mean for the average person? How might it affect your household budget? When tariffs are imposed on imported goods, those costs often don't just disappear. Companies importing these goods pay the tariff. They then frequently pass that extra cost on to their customers. This can mean wholesalers pay more, then retailers pay more. Ultimately, the consumer at the end of the line often sees a higher price tag on the store shelf or online. If this tariff removal is finalized and takes full effect, consumers could eventually see lower prices. This would apply to a wide range of goods. Think about electronics like smartphones and televisions. Furniture, home goods, and tools are other categories that were heavily impacted. Many everyday items that are manufactured abroad could become more affordable. This would provide some welcome relief for household budgets. However, it's important to manage expectations about when these price changes might occur. These adjustments are not likely to be immediate. It takes time for the effects of tariff removal to ripple through the complex global supply chain. So, while the news is good, patience will be needed to see the full benefit. This ruling isn't just about potentially lower prices. To sum up, today's big news is a U.S. federal trade court ruling. The court struck down parts of the Section 301 tariffs imposed during the Trump administration. These tariffs primarily targeted hundreds of billions of dollars in Chinese goods. The court found that the president overstepped his authority in imposing them. The legal reasoning centered on the misuse of certain emergency powers. This decision has been years in the making, following numerous legal challenges. The immediate reaction from Wall Street was overwhelmingly positive. Stock markets surged. Investors are optimistic about potential refunds for tariffs already paid. They also anticipate lower future costs for businesses. Globally, markets also reacted well. The ruling offers hope for easing global inflation. It could also help repair strained global supply chains. These are significant potential benefits for the wider economy, not just for big corporations but for everyone. However, the story is not over. The Biden administration must now decide whether to continue that appeal. This decision involves a delicate balance. The final chapter on these tariffs has yet to be written.